My name is Jordan Byron, and I'm here today to talk about RbMU Tech, a whirlwind review of Ruby Mendicant University's open source software. I'm going to start with a little story. About twice a week, I get to work with Gregory Brown, and back in June of 2010, I arrived at his house, and he was really excited about something. So I said, "Hey, Greg, what's going on?" And he began talking to me about his idea for Ruby Mendicant University, a free online school for intermediate Rubyists. A lot has changed since last June, and since then we've run 8 core courses, 3 alumni courses, and we're proud to have released over 40 open source projects as a result of the school. Out of all those projects, there are 4 that we call our own, and that's what I'm here to talk about today. The largest one we have is a Rails 3 app. It's called University Web. University Web is what we use to manage the school. Any student who comes through interacts with University Web. Before I talk about why we built it, I'm going to talk a little bit about what it looks like and what it does. Here are some of the screenshots of the inside of University Web. Inside we have all of our courses that the students interact with. We have an IRC log, so when conversations happen in IRC, we can point them back to the logs. We have a student directory, so students can find each other and interact. Before University Web, we used a lot of disparate software. We had a mailing archive to track conversations. We used GitHub in really weird ways where assignments would be forks and everybody would fork their submissions and send pull requests so Greg knew what was going on. It all worked, and we've been really blessed at RmU to have a great sense of community, but the tooling that we had did not support the community, and so when we sat down at the table and we said, all right, we need to build something, we made sure that we kept the community in mind, and by doing so, we created what we're calling submissions in the application. Submissions are conversations about code in the application. Students can jump in and say, I'm having a problem with this. Greg will talk about their code. Other students can see the conversation, can join in, and anytime any activity happens in a submission, we put them in this activity log. And so if I haven't been in University Web for a while, I'm a student, I can pop in and say, oh, Greg's having this awesome conversation about this code, let me jump in and talk about it. Or, oh, I'm having the same problem, let me see what the resolution was. And these are all examples of ways that we've written the application to help drive the community to enforce those core values, because we really do believe that the deep human connections are what makes the difference. Aside from University Web, we also just created a new website called PuzzleNode. PuzzleNode is a programming quiz site, and anybody can go online. We have 8 problems that you can go and solve. You can use any programming language, and we actually use it for our admissions process, and I'll talk about why we created it. Again, this is what it looks like. I apologize for all the blue. That is totally my fault. When you go online and solve a puzzle in PuzzleNode, you open up a comments section. One of my favorite comments that somebody put was, okay, this one made my brain hurt, but it's a good kind of pain. So let's reflect a little bit on the old admissions process and why PuzzleNode was created. The old admissions process, people had to request an exam. Greg would send the exam. It was one problem. They would work on it, send it back to him. It was very isolated, and we only had one data point. So if a student wrote some really bad code, or not bad code, but it wasn't their strong suit, and they sent us something that maybe looked like this, we didn't have a very good picture of what they were capable of doing. So with PuzzleNode, we asked them to solve 2 problems, and so we get 2 more data points. We get rid of some false positives. The other problem we were having is Greg would have to pull down this code and run it, and that takes a lot of time. The nice thing with PuzzleNode is they have to have a valid solution when they put it up there, and it has to meet the requirements. They can't get a correct solution if it doesn't meet the requirements. One of the almost magical things that we had with PuzzleNode is that we found when people were working on these problems, they would come into IRC, they would engage us much sooner in the process, so we got to know if they were a good fit, and they got to know if we were a good fit for them. And these are all examples of ways that the community has driven what we do. So we are very open to listening to ideas, and like I said, it's just kind of magical when these processes come out of nowhere and you're like, wow, I never thought that that would be one of the things we would see from our work. We have 2 more core projects I'm going to glaze over really quick. One is Mendibot. It's a little IRC bot that ferries the data into University Web. Another one is done by one of our alumni. It's called Scheduler. We use it to manage, or actually find scheduled times across time zones, because that's really difficult. 2 little kernels of knowledge I want to hit you with before we leave. I always used to think announcements on a website were kind of a nice to have, but we found running these websites, getting information out to your users is pretty critical, and having a place to just point them and say, here's the information, go get it. The other side of this, it's really important to listen to your users. I have learned so much by putting the poor Army students through my bad design, and listening from them and learning from them was probably some of the most valuable experiences I've had at RMU. If you'd like to learn more, you can go to university.rubymendicant.com. On my website, I have a whole history of RMU and some of the articles. Stop by BoConf. We're running a programming contest. You get a free Kindle. Thank you very much. We'll see you at the after party. If you win, yes. You cannot show up and get a free Kindle.